Welcome to the Jeremy and Andy Talk Movies podcast. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Andy.
And Andy, I've got to ask, man, if we were ever shipwrecked or plane wrecked on an island, how long do you think you could last?
I don't know. I have seen several movies about people being stranded on islands, so it all depends on how true the movies are to what you can actually do to survive on an island. Because that would be my only point of reference is like what Tom Hanks did in Castaway, what they do in this movie, and is that it? Am I running out already of movies where people are stranded on islands?
Swiss Family Robinson. I don't know if you ever saw that as a kid.
Yeah. The Beach with DiCaprio, doesn't he do some stuff to kind of stay alive? Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be honest. I think I would just die very quickly.
I don't know.
I wouldn't last. I don't have the survival skills.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm not ruling out that I would just swim out into the ocean and just let the ocean just take care of business.
Well, we bring that up because this week we are talking about a movie that explores that very situation. We're talking about Send Help. And Send Help is a movie by Sam Raimi. And Sam Raimi is one of those names that I think you say it, and most people will be like, I've heard of him. Like, I feel like I know his movies. And if you say Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, they go, oh, okay. Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, and for maybe people my age or older, you could say Evil Dead, and people would be like, "Oh, Evil Dead rules." It's just one of those movies and series that just has a good reputation, and Sam Raimi's the driving force behind that. So,
And is probably a little more informative about what to expect from a Sam Raimi film. Because if you say this Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, you might think, oh, this guy makes like popcorn family movies. Not exactly.
no, not really. Yeah, exactly. The Evil Dead ones are the best example, I think.
Yeah, so when I first saw the preview for this movie, I was like, okay, like I feel like I've seen similar premise before. Um, it's basically misery mixed with triangle of sadness, and we can get into more of why that is later. But then it says from Sam Raimi, and that makes me go, oh, okay, like he doesn't do anything just sort of standard or traditional. And so suddenly I'm like, well, I guess it's not going to be like things I've seen before.
Yeah, Raimi, exactly. He'll kind of make genre movies, but he has his own unique, almost like a really, really dark sense of humor that he likes to inject into his movies. And, he's not afraid to get kind of gross, but in a really over the top way that a lot of times lends itself to almost being funny. So I kind of had similar thoughts as you did.
Yeah, and his movies, you could describe him, and accidentally people could think maybe you're talking about like more of a Tim Burton style. But the difference with him is I feel like Burton's very like dark gothic. I feel like Raimi's very bright in his movies. He likes a lot of like energy and color and light.
Yep, absolutely. Like his movies are almost, maybe I stole this. I heard someone else say it's like demented Three Stooges sometimes, where it's like it kind of gets into like slapstick almost, but in really, horror movie type of situations. That's a little bit accurate, especially like with the Evil Dead stuff. Like Army of Darkness, which is the third Evil Dead movie, does just rip off Three Stooges. They do like the poke your eyes and block it with your hand gag and everything. So yeah, he's just a unique guy. His movies are unique. He's weird, but I think to me, typically in the right ways, in ways that I enjoy. So his name is definitely enough to get me excited about a movie.
For sure. So let's do a summary of this movie and then we'll jump into our thoughts on how much we did or didn't like it. So, Linda Little is an invaluable employee to her company behind the scenes, but when Bradley takes over the business from his father, he passes her over for the promotion she was promised because he finds her off-putting. But when a business flight ends in disaster, the two are stranded on an island, left to survive on their own, and there, the power dynamics shift in Linda's favor as she has all the survival skills they need. Andy,
Yeah,
was Send Help good?
I love Send Help, Jeremy. I thought this movie was a blast. It was kind of everything I wanted and everything I didn't know I wanted because it has a lot of fun twists and turns along the way. It's got two great performances. It's got the Raimi stuff that I love. Huge fan of this movie.
I enjoyed this movie as well. It is definitely weird, like you would expect from a Raimi movie. Um, I do think this movie was probably 20 minutes too long. I think this movie could have been like super crisp, clean 90-minute movie. It's an hour and 53 minutes.
Sure.
It's not, it doesn't make it bad. It wasn't like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, this is dragging unbearably long. I just think it could have been like a really tight, clean 90 minutes. Um, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. And in large part, thanks to Rachel McAdams, who I think is strangely like she is a big star, but I don't think she really gets thrown around that much as like our one of our great working actresses or anything. And I don't know. I just this was a good reminder of like, man, Rachel McAdams is really good.
Yeah, she's incredible in this movie. And kudos to her for having the, just the bravery to take on this role, which is super unflattering, in so many ways. And she has to be awkward and almost kind of gross at the beginning of the movie in a way. There's a scene where this is not any kind of big spoiler, but she has like, is it like tuna salad, I think, on the corner of her mouth. And Raimi also loves to do like these like extreme close ups. And it's like an extreme close up of the tuna salad. And then, yeah, she has to be weird. She has to be funny. She has to be menacing. She has to be awkward. She is asked to do a lot in this movie, and she just hits it out of the park.
She does. I was watching and I was wondering. I was like, man, she's doing such a good job of playing awkward. She's got all these great little like quirks and weird things that she does. That sort of builds up that awkward. And I go, I wonder where she's pulling from. Like
Hmm.
who's she been around in her life where she's like, yeah, that's an awkward thing. I'm gonna borrow that for my awkward character that I'm playing. Because yeah, it just sells as very genuine. Yeah, these are things that like I could see someone doing, and it is awkward.
It is, and this movie does a really good job. It really rides that line between like it doesn't go so far over the top, that she is just like, okay, no human being would ever act like this, but it is an exaggerated version of someone who is awkward, but it really straddles that line really well, I feel like, where it never quite goes so ridiculous that it takes you out of it, but yet at the same time you're very aware it's Rachel McAdams just like purposely made up to look frumpy and weird. Like it's a cool balancing act, I think.
It is, and that's we can go ahead and say this again, kind of an obvious thing, but when you cast Rachel McAdams as your lead, who's supposed to be really awkward and off-putting, like she can play that really well, and yet there's still gonna be moments where you're going, but dang, she looks like Rachel McAdams. And let's be honest, yeah, they've been on the island for a couple weeks, and you know she's flourishing on the island, and I'm like, when's the part of the movie where the main guy's gonna look and go, holy crap, I'm on an island with Rachel McAdams? But it never does that. It never breaks the illusion that Rachel McAdams is not some stunningly beautiful woman.
Right. And this movie, I mean, I assume we'll probably get into this. This movie just has such a really great sense of humor about what McAdams is able to do on this island. Like, I think this is intentional where there's definitely an intention of like they try to make her look more attractive like the longer she's on the island, which is just a really funny choice to me. I mean, and when we get into spoilers, you could probably explain a little bit of that with something that happens in this movie, but like they just get a lot of really funny humor out of that, I think, where it's like, how is she getting better looking out on this island? And like there's so many funny things with what all she's able to build and construct on this island, and just really, really good stuff. And we say this about a lot of movies, but the bottom line is this movie just doesn't work if she's not amazing in it, and she is. So
100%. She carries this movie, and because the movie asked her to. Again, I don't mean to say like everybody else wasn't doing their job and she had to carry it. I'm just saying the movie it's her, and so yeah, she had to be that good.
yeah, and she is. I mean, just can't say enough good about her.
Yeah, and Dylan O'Brien. We should all say he's the other big lead. It's basically just the two of them for most of the movie. He is also really good in this movie. I don't mean to make it sound like it's just her, but I will say she's the standout. But he does a really good job as well.
No, he's great too, I think. I mean, it's so easy to talk about her and heap all this praise on her. But, it's like we talk about a lot of times, just because your role is like like the pompous jerk kind of sexist boss, which is something we've seen a lot, doesn't mean that it's easy to pull off. He is still doing his part, and when he needs to be despicable, he is. When he needs to kind of turn on the charm a little bit, he does. And to play, how good he can be at, like, he's so in charge in the office, and then he's so helpless on the island. He's really good at that. He does a really, really good job.
Yeah. Also, again, not a very flattering part for him to embrace. Just like with hers, where she's being very off-putting, particularly before the island. He's got to be. I mean, he's off-putting the whole movie because he's playing real smarmy and kind of despicable in the office, and then he's just pathetic on the island. So, yeah, not a flattering part for him.
No, kudos to both of them for being willing to do this, because they're both, these nice looking, movie star type people, and to be willing to take on this part for both of them is really cool, I think.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get into more of the specifics of the plot, and we'll give a spoiler warning here just in case people want to see it for themselves. That way we can be free to talk about wherever the plot goes.
It's a really tough movie to talk about.
It is.
There's a lot of things that happen in this movie, so it's hard to talk about without spoiling anything.
Yeah. So early in the movie, yeah, we get Rachel McAdams, her character Linda, in the office and being awkward, not reading social situations, her trying to invite herself along to a karaoke night, and it is just the most uncomfortable thing in the world.
Uh,
But then we see her at home talking to her bird, and she's doing a little exposition dump, but uh, talking about this big promotion she's gonna have, and Bradley, who's taken over, and they flirted at a Christmas party, and as soon as she says that, you're like, that didn't happen. But I mean, it wasn't actually flirty. I'm sure they talked. And then she's at the office. He comes in and gets introduced, and it's again something we've seen in movies before. Like they're walking through, and she stops him to talk, and everything she says, the whole interaction is just uncomfortable because she's just not getting how awkward she is, and he is so like disgusted by her basically. And that's where you talked about the tuna on the face scene and the close ups, and it's so awkward. So yeah, he he goes to his office and he's basically just like, "What was that?" And talking to Dennis Haysbert, who I don't know where he's been for the past decade or two, but I was like, "Hey, it's Dennis Haysbert." So uh, yeah, he decides he's not giving her the promotion that she was promised, even though Haysbert talks about how valuable she actually is to the company. It's kind of the classic, again, young, the son takes over and he doesn't really care about the business. He just wants to promote his friends and isn't really thinking in business terms. So he passes her over for the promotion, and you could tell she's kind of like torn between, do I just like quit and walk out, or do I power through? And then she goes and she stands up to him in the office and basically calls him out for like passing her up on the promotion. And he does the thing where he's like, okay, well, we got this big merger coming up. Why don't you take a crack at this problem we can't solve and prove me wrong? Which clearly he's manipulating her and just trying to get her to do the thing for him before he, moves on from her or passes her over still. But she's like, okay. So she shows up, and that's on the flights where they crash, but not before we get a little more extra like exposition because to make the guys even worse, one of the guys finds her Survivor, the TV show audition tape, where she's laying out her. It's like really cheesy edited video. She's way too enthusiastic, but basically lays out like, hey, I know all these Survivor things, conveniently letting the audience know before the crash. And then the plane crashes. And pretty good plane crash sequence.
yeah, it is. I just want to say real quick, McAdams is so funny in that Survivor video. Like, kudos to her. That almost feels like Raimi was like, "Hey, Rachel McAdams, like, get a friend and have them film you doing this awful Survivor audition tape." And she is so funny. That is a really, really funny part of that movie. I just want to say, like, when she's on the playground and like she's acting like she's off an island, and the camera just pans out and there's just school kid or young kids playing on this in this park. I was like, that is really funny, really, really funny.
It is, but it's awkward because the way it's being played out, it is funny, but because the bad guys in the movie are laughing at her while she's over there, she can hear them laughing. You're feeling bad for her, but so you're kind of like in on the joke, but also feeling bad for being in on the joke.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's meant to be awkward and uncomfortable. I'm just saying, like, McAdams just shines in that, like, full, fully embracing being this loser character. So, again, kudos to her.
Yeah. So the plane wrecks again. Pretty good sequence. Um, Not to be morbid, weirdly satisfying though when a couple of the jerk guys get sucked out of the plane and just like, ha, that's what you get.
And that's another thing Raimi's good at. He knows when to give us like the over the top kind of violence, but it's not gratuitous. It's not like the Saw type violence we always talk about. It's very kind of tongue in cheek and yeah, like one guy in particular kind of gets folded in half going out the plane door, and they this is where Raimi just is good, and this movie kind of goes that extra step. Like, so the guy's getting sucked out, and he's holding on to Rachel McAdams, and you kind of feel like you've seen that scene before, except this movie draws it out for like 30 or 45 seconds longer than a normal movie does, to the point where it almost does become kind of comedy in a way, even though it's kind of morbid comedy. So it's stuff like that that I just kind of enjoyed and appreciated.
Yeah, and the one guy, the guy who was getting the promotion she was promised, ends up outside the plane,
Yeah,
and he's still like holding on to her straps, like he's smacking against her window, and she just reaches over and pulls the blind down.
it's really good stuff.
That was that got a good laugh in my theater.
Same in ours, including from me. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah. So the plane goes down in the middle of the ocean, and we see her kind of out in the storm in the big waves. No sign of anybody else, even though we know that somewhere Bradley must have gotten out because he's going to end up on the island with her.
Yeah.
And then we kind of cut to the next morning and she's washed up on shore. As we said, movies, if they've taught us anything, it's that if you pass out in the ocean, you will wake up just on a shore somewhere. Okay.
I don't even know why people stress out in the movies about having a plane crash out in the ocean. You just wash up right on shore, like far enough away where you're not going to get sucked back into the ocean. You're always just going to be fine. Just let the ocean guide you to the shore.
That's right. That ocean's really good about doing that. Just navigates you right in.
It does a really good job. And right off the bat, this is, it sounds like a lot's happened, but I agree with you, this movie is a little too long. But all this beginning stuff and all this necessary exposition, it does get us on the island pretty quickly, I feel like. Like, we're maybe 15 minutes into this movie.
Yeah, no, I would definitely say the 15 or so minutes that I would cut would be on the island.
Yes.
Anyways, so once we're on the island, she gets right to work. Like she's up, and I guess she does find him pretty immediately. But yeah, she gets right to work at doing all this cool stuff to survive. Once again, giving
Yeah.
someone like me little helpful hints about how to do things if I'm ever on an island. Taking coconuts and digging a hole in the sand and setting them in there, and then putting big leaves for them to funnel the water into the coconuts. I guess is how you're supposed to
Yeah.
do it. But yeah, she gets right to work building them a nice little shelter and everything.
Yeah, and I appreciate how this movie wastes no time in kind of playing its cards, like even showing its cards, even though there's still some twist to come. Like she's just straight up happy to be stuck on this island. Like they don't even try and pretend like she's wanting to get off this island. She's like, oh, finally, I am in my element. I'm somewhere where I'm comfortable and I'm not awkward. And I just thought that was also a nice little beat of this movie.
Yeah, and the Bradley character when he wakes up, his initial response is good. He's like, "Thank you for helping me. Appreciate it." His leg is badly wounded, cut. I don't know, broken, maybe. I don't know. And it just doesn't take long before, the next day he's like, "So I'm gonna be a d bag again and start talking to you like I'm the boss and you got to listen to what I say." And then she basically like she should laughs him off like, "Are you serious?" Like, he says you still work for me, and she's like, "We're not in the office anymore. That's not how it works out here, bud."
Yeah, and I love all this stuff. I love like this basically just this chess match and this power struggle that goes on between them. I just thought that was all, really well done and honestly, I think this is a kind of a sneaky like really clever screenplay. Like the way it does shift the power and the dynamics and how they're constantly kind of like trying to one up each other a little bit and just reestablish dominance and it's kind of a sneaky good screenplay, I feel like.
Yeah. Um, I feel like we're to the point of the movie. I'm going to start mixing up the order of when things happen a lot.
Me too.
And so I'm sorry if it feels like I'm jumping around, but It's not too long before she says, "I saw boar tracks. We need, the sustenance. I'm gonna go try to kill a boar." And this is maybe the first like, I mean, there's been little Raimi flourishes throughout, like you said, the like disgusting tuna thing, some of the plane crash stuff, but this was the first like full Raimi scene is when she hunts this boar, and it was crazy and and bloody and comedic, and it was hilarious. It was a great scene.
It was a phenomenal scene. It was so well done. It got a huge laugh in our theater. McAdams sells it perfectly. It's the right. Raimi's so good at knowing, like, okay, he's like, yes, I'm going to make this gross, and he knows just how long to let the scene go for too long. Like he lets that stuff go longer than it should, but he also somehow just knows right when to be like, all right, like we've made our joke, we've ran this longer than it should go. Now stop. And then he also is really good at like the okay, let's do one last like the boar like spits blood in her face one last time. Kudos to that scene, an amazing scene.
Yeah, and he'll do the like one extra little thing just to make sure it's really. First off, the boar is hilarious because he almost gives it like a like a human like personality, like villainous thing, like he's after her and he's snarling and stuff. But when she's got it impaled and then it kind of like she first impales it and you're like, oh, she got it, but then it just keeps going and so she's going further and it's got like snot coming from its nostrils that is like spewing out onto her. So it's not just blood spraying, which is gross enough. It's like he has to add the snot that's like just kicking out of its nose on her, which is so gross. And then as it's getting too close, she's like starts hitting it, and then she grabs was it a knife or a rock or something and just starts like stabbing it in the eye.
In the eye, yeah.
And it's so gross, but it's so funny.
It is so gross, and again, just to heap praise on Raimi, he is so good at knowing how to do this stuff, but not making it like just so gross that you're just all of a sudden like turned off from the movie. Where you're like, this is just disgusting. Like I don't want to see this. Like he knows how to do it, but keep it entertaining. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. And then there's the great moment where she shows back up to where Bradley is to their little camp, and she's just covered in blood, and she's like panting, and she's like, "Do you ever hunt?
Yeah.
I think I like it," and it's so good.
And she just flops this boar head down next to him, and then blood splatters all over him. And this is just like, I'm like, this is just comedy gold right here. This is so funny and so ridiculous. I love how this movie doesn't even pretend to operate within any rules of like, it's like, how did she cut that entire boar's head off? Like, she doesn't have any, it doesn't matter. It's all played for over the top ridiculousness in the right way.
Yeah, and then again, typical movie thing where they make it look so easy.
Yeah, piece of cake.
She cooks the boar over a fire just on a little spit roast, and it's like the perfect barbecue.
Of course it is. Yeah, it's like something you and I couldn't make if we were in our homes with a $600 smoker and the best meat in the world. You and I couldn't make something that looks that good. But in the movies, you can, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this the part where her and O'Brien have this conversation where he's like, "You literally brought home the bacon"? Is that the same part? Because that's also really funny.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I love that part.
So we kind of get a just a long stretch of her thriving on the island, like she's making things happen, taking care of him. He's just having to like observe how good she is at all this. She kills the boar and makes him. She's fighting, not she doesn't just get fish. She makes like gourmet sushi out of these fish that she catches, and uh, yeah, she's got her little hut that's like perfect, and she's making hats for herself. She just looks like she's living the life. She's like on Gilligan's Island, and he's in Castaway.
That's what I wanted to talk about. I think again, kudos to the screenplay and everyone involved in this movie because I just think that's really funny how they just go so over the top with how well she can thrive on this island. Like she has a hammock that she's made and it looks incredible. The funniest part to me was that she takes the time to fashion herself a hat. I just thought that was so funny. And then it's intercut with him like failing miserably to even put like a stick up against a tree. And she literally has like a hut and a sushi spread and she finds like vegetables and she's making like a puree out of them. And I was just like, this is really funny. And this really, this movie is not afraid to take big swings, and they really pay off. Like in those scenes, especially, really, really funny stuff.
Yeah, and he does a great job playing off it where he's like annoyed at how much fun she's having on the island. And there's one point where he's like, "Did you make a backpack?" And she's like, "Woven a backpack." And she's like, "Yeah, do you like my backpack?" And he's just like, "I can't believe this is who I'm stuck with on this island."
It's really good. It's really entertaining.
It's actually really not long into the movie or them being stuck on the island that we get her seeing a boat while she's off exploring the island, and she starts to yell for help, and then she stops herself and says, "Not yet," and
Hmm.
then keeps going, and you're like, "Oh, okay." Like I know, like it's not too surprising. It's kind of showing us that she's thriving on this island and all of that. It's still a little unsettling when she does that, and you're like, "Okay, all right, you're definitely crossing over into crazy lady territory right now."
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's what I mean when I say like this movie does not really like hide a lot of its trick. It's not like in a lot of movies you would see that at the end of the movie, like in a flashback, where it was like, oh my gosh, the twist is like she could have gotten them off this island the whole time. This movie's pretty upfront about like she's not trying at all to get them off this island. And as much as we're talking about like how funny and entertaining it is, I think part of the reason I admire this movie so much is because underneath all of that, pretty close to the surface, underneath all of that, is this really good sense of like menace and like, oh, like she's not just like the kooky bird lady. Like she's a little bit crazy. And again, I know I've said this a million times, McAdams just plays that so well. And that's, I think that's a really cool thing about this movie is it's making her entertaining and fun, but underneath it, it's like, uh-oh, like this guy's in trouble being stuck on this island with her. And it's really cool. It's really well done. It's like Castaway meets Misery.
Yeah, but if I'm honest, if I've got a complaint, I think they could have ticked up the the menacing about 10%, maybe 15.
Yeah.
Um, because like you watch Misery and there's Kathy Bates first off is great in that movie,
Oh, yeah, she's amazing.
and she does the great swing from like starting off so sweet, but
Hmm.
you can see the passion she has, that level of like fandom and passion. It's not surprising when it turns more sadistic. McAdams is like too sweet almost early on, and so like she starts doing things like that, but even when she doesn't signal the boat, you're like, well, okay, like they're not like in danger on the island because she's doing such a good job of taking care of them, and she has this idea of like, well, if a boat came by, another one will. It's not like I'm keeping us here forever. It's just like
Hmm.
I'm gonna enjoy this for a little longer. And I think if there was, I don't know, I just needed a little more hints of menacing because I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but she eventually does some things that I go, oh, I don't know if the movie quite earned her going to that level,
Yeah.
and they could have with just a couple more things or moments where she showed her capability to be that menacing.
That's a fair point. One thing I do think they cover that a little bit when she tells the story about being married before and how her husband died. And I really like that scene because I do like the fact that they never tell you like I think clearly it's meant to make you question like, oh, did she kill this guy? Or at least like put some things in motion to make sure he died. And I like that they leave that open ended. And to me, maybe just because I like this movie so much, I thought that kind of covered that. What like that? It kind of filled that gap that you're talking about. Because I agree with you. They probably could have ratcheted it up a little bit more. But I like that they just plant that seed of like, oh, maybe this lady did kill her husband because he was abusive and she just is a psycho. So like I get your point, but it didn't bother me.
Yeah. I mean, but even that. So I'm with you. I think the implication is even if she didn't directly kill him, like when she gave him the keys and he was drunk, she was like, "You're
She
gonna go
knew.
die, and I'm okay with that now." Uh, but
Mm-hmm.
so again, big spoiler. Bradley has a fiance back in the mainland, and eventually this lady shows up on the island, shocks Rachel McAdams as this boat comes up, and she's like, "Linda, I found you! I did it! I found you!" And her and this local guy on a boat,
Yeah,
and Linda, of course, like, is it just you guys, or is there more search party? And they're like, "Oh, it's just us," which you never should say. You should always tell
never
them
say
there's
that.
more. Oh yeah, people are looking for us. Trust us. And and she ends up leading them to their death, and they don't quite, she leads them to a cliff where she expects them to maybe fall, and she falls, and the guy's holding her,
Hmm.
and then she takes a rock and knocks out the guy and kills him. And that's sort of like, okay, letting your abusive husband go kill himself is one thing. These people were totally innocent, and you're kind of a sweet lady, and this is just, it's a step too far, I think, to me, um, that I was just having a trouble buying.
Yeah, that's fair.
Also, as I said, there's a lot of Triangle of Sadness in this movie. Now, not many people saw Triangle of Sadness, even though it was an Oscar nominated movie. And so this movie can get away with having a lot of similarities that people aren't going to recognize. But that movie
Yeah.
is basically a movie in three acts. And the third act is these rich people from this yacht or this cruise ship stranded on an island. And one of the workers from the cruise ship is the only one who knows how to survive. And she basically like becomes the powerful leader of the group. And they all have to do what she says, and in the end they find, oh, there's a resort on the island, but the lady's like unwilling to give up, like she's actually having a better life being the one in charge, and it ends with her holding a rock over the like main girl's head. She's gonna smash it. And so here we are, Linda on this island, the power dynamics in her favor, she's standing there holding a rock over this guy's head, and I'm like, this is so much Triangle of Sadness. Even though it is such a better movie than Triangle of Sadness, I liked it so much more than Triangle of Sadness. I still felt like you're doing a lot of Triangle of Sadness.
No, no argument there. They definitely are. I have no rebuttal to that at all.
So here's the question. When we get to the point where everything's kind of becoming climactic, um, and Bradley figures out like she's gone full crazy, he finds his fiance's hand just sticking up out of sand, which again is a real Raimi thing because it's like there's no way there's no way
That
that's
was
how her
great.
body would be found,
It
but he
is.
just thinks it's great, like visual of her hand just sticking up out of the sand with the ring,
No.
the giant diamond ring on it.
Yeah, it makes no sense at all, but it's really funny.
Yeah, and his character like doesn't even literally try to like unbury her body or figure out if the rest of it's under there. He just cries and screams over the hand sticking up and takes the ring.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at this point, Andy, I just gotta ask, like, I think you're probably like me and just along for the ride. But were you rooting for either character at this moment? You're like, well, Linda's been the good guy, but here she is. She's fully made the bad turn, and Bradley's kind of a jerk, but also he's stuck with the psycho. Like, should I be rooting for either of these characters?
Right, absolutely. And I honestly, I think that just adds to my admiration of this movie that it was brave enough to make both of these characters kind of equally unlikable. I gotta say, I kind of found myself leaning a little bit towards Bradley. I think just because, like, darn it, this guy's a jerk, but like, I think he would have gotten them off the island, if he could have. Um, but again, like maybe the point of the movie is that there's not always a good guy and a bad guy. Maybe they're kind of just both the bad guys. And yeah, I kind of switched back and forth, but ultimately, not to cop out on your question, but I was just along for the ride at this point. And then it kind of took it to the next level for me when, and maybe I might be jumping ahead a little bit. No, I don't think so. They just get in an all out, we're trying to murder each other on this island fight, and I was just, that was where I was already in. That's where this movie and these performances fully won me over, because it's like, here is big movie star Rachel McAdams, and she is willing to do this movie where a guy is like gouging her eye out with his thumb and ripping big chunks of her scalp out, and I was just like, awesome, awesome. Let's just see where this goes.
Yeah, it is a violent, but like you said earlier, in kind of a slapstick way fight. Because he like, yeah, he grabs her hair and rips it, and it like has a chunk of her skin on her hair that he ripped out, and then she like bites him at one point and spits out a chunk of his skin, and then the eye gouging and all of that, and it's like cartoonish and it's graphic. It like the camera gets right in there with these shots, but it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't feel like you're watching something like super gross and sadistic. It just like, I don't know, because it's so playful about it.
Yeah, it's wild to see these two movie stars just ripping each other to shreds on this island.
Yep. And then that fight leads to eventually he's running and he finds this really nice house on the other side of the island. That's when we do get a little bit of flashback to the first time she sees that boat and doesn't call for it. She sees that there are people going to like work, and they're like the caretakers of this really nice house. and that's where she gets a knife that she's using throughout the movie, and it's hilarious too. Too when she calls him out on that, she's like, "A knife just washed up on shore." Like, come on, man! Like, how many knives are just washing up on random shores?
That was a great moment. I loved that they had her acknowledge that. Like, I can't believe you were so stupid to believe this really nice, clean knife washed up on the shore. That was great.
Probably again leads back to like her. It doesn't expressly say these things, but like maybe why she's able to look so good, and there's even things like she's finding all these fruits, and then once you see that, you're like, okay, so was she actually going out and finding fruits, or were the people stocking this house with fruits, and she was just going and raiding the house and getting these nice fruits? And has she been going there and taking like showers and actually soaping up and stuff like that he hasn't been able to do? And probably, all of those things, even though she was definitely thriving anyways in the outdoors, but she had this extra little boost to help her.
Yeah, and that's a nice touch too. That it just implies it, but it doesn't really give you an answer one way or another. It does a good job of. It's like, you can kind of decide for yourself if she was. I mean, she probably was, but I appreciate the fact that they didn't show like multiple flashbacks of her. It didn't answer every single question as to how she could thrive so well on this island. Like, we didn't have to explicitly see her with the fruit, with taking a shower, like all this stuff. It just kind of left it up to us.
Yeah, you're right. Uh, and then we get the final climactic showdown in the house between the two. She comes out with a shotgun. He tries to sweet talk her one last time. Ends up being able to wrestle the shotgun from her, but it's not firing because either it's not loaded or whatever. I don't remember exactly why it didn't fire. And then she what does she get, like a fire poker or something, and just beats the stew out of him basically.
Yeah. And then it ends with she has a golf club, right? Yeah, a golf club.
Yeah, well, yeah, she's
Or am I jumping ahead a little bit?
I think it's like the fire poker thing, but she swings it like a golf club at his face, and then it like
Yeah.
cuts to her hitting a
Yes.
golf club at a like fancy
Yes.
golf course, um, which was a nice little transition, but also a little bit jarring because like, oh, we're just jumping right to like a year later in the story.
Yeah.
And apparently she's thriving. She's written a bestseller about how she survived on an island, and they're going to make a movie about her. Something she's clearly a little awkward, but has learned to play the part a little better as she's being interviewed by this lady. Um,
Yeah.
and then she drives off in a very nice car, and we get One Way or Another playing, which is her go-to karaoke song. And doesn't she look and wink at the
Yeah.
camera or something like that to end the movie?
Yeah, she totally breaks the fourth wall and she just stares directly at us, the audience, for like 5 seconds and then gives it a wink and movie over. And you're just like, what in the heck just happened? That was a wild ride to be on, man.
Yeah, that was that was something. Uh, yeah, and I would say, like I said, the movie may be a little long, but it starts and gets going really quickly, and it wraps up very quickly. So you know, can't criticize it for the ending or the beginning of the movie.
No, and you're right. If you're going to shave anything, you probably could do with just one or two less scenes of her, building a hut or like at one point in the movie, like bad weather comes in and wipes out like their kind of first home or shelter they make, and then they just kind of make another one. Like you probably could have just scrapped all that and cut off like 7 or 8 minutes of this movie, and it moves a little bit better. But yeah, and like my argument or my point at the beginning of saying I love this movie, like I'm not arguing that it's a perfect movie. I guess just like for a January release, like you're getting a fun movie that takes some big risks and um just to put a pin in all this, like just a phenomenal Rachel McAdams performance.
Absolutely, and we've been going long enough, but I want to go back. We missed one thing I wanted to shout out because it was uh, noteworthy. Is there's a long stretch again. It kind of plays in these like little sequences. So you got a sequence where he starts trying to endear himself to her, but it's all sort of elaborate traps so he could eventually offer to cook her dinner, so he could poison her, so he could try to get off the island. And he poisons her, and then he goes and grabs a raft, and he's like, "I'm out of here, screw you," and jumps on this raft. And you're just watching, going like, "This guy is the biggest idiot because he is trying to get this raft out of there in the middle of tide coming in and just doesn't have a prayer. And he's like really psyched when the first couple waves hit and he's getting through it and he's just like so proud of himself. And then one big wave and his raft is just wrecked and he's right back where he started. Actually, he would have died again if she didn't come and save him. And that's another Sam Raimi where she's giving him CPR, but she's also been poisoned. She's throwing up the poison. So she's just yakking in his face and then giving him CPR. It's so gross, but so funny.
It is incredible. I can't believe we didn't shout it out in the moment because that is just a great scene. Like his buffoonery, that raft doesn't just like kind of fall apart. It just basically disintegrates in the ocean. And then same thing like we were talking about with the boar. Like she vomits in his face, but then she does it like six more times, and you're just like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's a really incredible scene. Honestly, not to sound gross or anything, but I wouldn't have cared if they would have leaned even heavier into some of this kind of gross out slash slapstick slash ridiculous stuff because it works so well in this movie.
Yeah. And then, God, see, we left out so many good things we got to talk about. And that leads to her punishing him. She feeds him a little bit of like octopus that like paralyzes him. And then she gives him this whole spiel about Egyptian slaves and how they were castrated so they would serve better. And
Yeah.
she gets out her knife and she pulls down his pants and tosses him aside. And he's just like freaking out, but he can't move. You know, he's just mumbling, just, "Ugh." And then she sticks something and blood's just squirting up. And she's like, "Oh, you're a bleeder." And all that. And then she holds up a rat and she's like, "It's just a rat, but next time it won't be. And don't mistake my kindness for weakness." And that was a great scene, too.
That was a great scene, and they are both phenomenal in that. Like O'Brien has to do like the tears are running down his face, and he has to be horrified without being able to move. And yeah, they both really nailed that scene.
Yeah. And it was a good twist that it was a rat. But I'll be honest, that's one of those scenes where if it wasn't a rat, it sells her crazy a lot more. You know, that would be the Kathy Bates smashing James Caan's feet on the cinder block moment of this movie if she had actually just said, "Yeah, you did this to me and I'm going to castrate you."
Yeah, absolutely. They could have gone all out with it, but yeah, and I guess maybe that's another thing about this movie. Like again, acknowledging you're right that it's a little too long, but just like you can pick like eight, nine, 10 just really good moments and scenes in this movie. You know, and that just adds up to success to me.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Um, so this movie has been very well received by critics. They are agreeing with us, even more so, like with you. 93% from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes. That's kind of shocking for what this movie is, for this kind of quirky genre film. 93% is really good.
It's really good. I mean, that's just a big win for Raimi and everybody involved. That's a really good score.
It is, and then 87% from audiences. So you know, great scores from both groups there. Andy, what can you tell me about how it's done at the box office?
So this is doing the thing that we really like. This is a very modest budget, $40 million budget is what I saw. Open to like 28, $29 million worldwide. And then because we're recording this a little late, second weekend had a just like a 48, 49% drop, which for this kind of movie, on Super Bowl weekend is really good. So I think it's up to like $54 million worldwide. So this is going to do that thing where it's obviously not a huge monstrous blockbuster, but I think it will stick around over the next couple weeks, just plucking away like $4 million, $3 million. So I think this is going to end up in like the 70 or $80 million range. So it's going to, it's going to be all right, and I think it's going to ultimately going to be a win. It's going to make profit, and it's been well received. So
That is good to know. Good to know. I like to hear movies being successful, especially movies that we like.
absolutely.
Well, Andy, I said last week, I said I hope that this movie we see it and we say, well, that's the first like really good movie of 2026, and maybe that was not fair to a movie like The Rip that we liked or, some others, but I think this is really what we meant by like the first really good movie, the kind of movie where it will likely get a mention in our end of the year episode.
Absolutely. I'll probably, I don't know that it, of course we got a lot of year left, but it'll be one of those movies that'll be like, yeah, just a win for the year, and something I'll probably even think about maybe if it deserves a spot in my top five or not. So big win.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, Andy, we talked about it a little before we started recording. It might be a minute before we get our next big win of the year because it just doesn't seem like a lot of really intriguing movies are coming to theaters. I mean, I guess maybe if you're really excited about Wuthering Heights, then maybe you're pumped. But I just don't think we're the demographic for that one, Andy.
No, I really don't foresee us having a real, engaging podcast on that movie. Not for me at all. Might be a good time to squeeze in maybe like our Oscar, what we would have done or something like that, because the release slate's it's a little rough next weekend.
Yeah, it is. Well, Andy, it was a lot of fun to talk about Send Help with you.
It's a fun movie to talk about.
And we're glad that everybody was able to join us. Here's what I would love is not only for people to tell us what you thought about the movie, but tell us if you think you could survive if you were stranded on an island, or how long do you think you could survive? Could you outlast Andy and I? Which is to say, could you make it at all? Pretty much is it. Could you last a couple of days or weeks?
I think there's a decent chance I'm dead.
We set the bar low for you, is what I'm saying.
We did. I think I'm dead in the first hour. Like probably a coconut falls off a tree and just hits me in the head and fractures my skull or something like that.
Yeah, that's me. I'm definitely the guy who dies of something stupid, like yeah, just catches and eats the wrong fish, and then I throw up and diarrhea myself to death. That's it, and I'm done.
Uh, that's the way you've always wanted to go.
Yeah, and then Sam Raimi can make the movie about me, and he will make it very graphic, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Sorry.
No, no. I like where you're going here.
Yeah, we should stop now though before I get myself in real trouble. So,
We really should.
uh, thank you everybody for joining us for this episode, and we will see you guys next time.
See you next time.